Converted Man here, and I've got Answers in Atheism, also known as Speed of Sound. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, well, thanks for coming. Goodbye, everybody. No,
Yeah, goodbye, everybody. Let's shoot in the head.
yeah, that was fast. No. So,
Yep,
Answers in Atheism, you know everything because atheism, of course, holds all the answers. Now,
it does.
uh, let me know. Let me go back. Did you grow up in a religious household, or was it one of those evil atheist households? Tell me about that.
Well, my father was raised Catholic, I guess, to some people from the old country. But then when they wouldn't bury my grandma because she was I don't know, because she was on the other side of that divide, Orthodox or something. So they wouldn't bury her, yeah, in the church. So my grandpa and my father hated Catholicism after that. So my dad was basically wouldn't set foot in a church. No way. My mom, on the other hand, liked community and she loved people and gossip. So she would go to a Presbyterian church. So she drugged me there from the time I was like 6 to 8. And at 8 years old, I pretty much decided that I wasn't buying this story any more than I bought Santa Claus. So, they never pushed it. So I've been kind of a lifelong atheist, other than, I was exposed to Sunday school and Presbyterian, really boring church lectures or, sermons, I guess they call them. And that was
So
it. So I had no religious background,
so
basically.
let's go into the Santa Claus thing. 'Cause that's a very kind of Americanish thing that some parents say there's a Santa Claus. You didn't buy into that. You didn't believe that. Why not? What?
Well, by 8, you pretty much figure that your parents are wrapping the gifts, and I mean, you have clues. The chimney's too damn small. It just doesn't work. Okay, and my parents weren't too big on it, but there was, it was sort of something they did with us when we were 4, 5, 6 years old. They play into the myth, and I did that with my children too. In fact, my children believed in dragons and all kinds of stuff when they were little. I gave them a strong mythical background until they were about 7, 8 years old. And then at the same time as me, they looked at me and said, "You're bullshitting us. I don't believe this." So, by that age, kids get enough clues that they know that, dad is going out there throwing, charcoal on the roof and making noise and making it sound like Santa Claus is coming or whatever. And so it was kind of the same thing. And I just found the way they presented like Noah's Ark in Sunday school, with this little boat with animals sticking their heads out of the windows, the classical cartoon picture.
Yeah, the giraffe. You always see the
With
giraffe's
the
head,
giraffe,
and
right? And
there's
the
an
elephant.
elephant, and
Yeah.
they're all happy, and Noah's like, he's all super
Yeah.
happy, and they're all like, yay, and it's like, oh, that's so cute, it's like, yeah.
Right. And the other thing is my father had signed me up to, like, he bought me a set of encyclopedias, and he bought me these all about science books. So I had an all about dinosaurs book and all about, I can't remember the other, all about plants. And so I was getting into science at the same time. And so I was starting to become a critical thinker. And, it just wasn't plausible. And along
Yeah,
with that, it was boring.
well, with Santa Claus, like, the parents will admit, oh no, it's not true when you say it's not true.
Right.
But with God, they'll be like, no, 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 it is true, And so, what did you make of the fact that all these grown-ups believed in this for real, but yet you weren't buying into it? Was it some dissonance there? Was it something that you struggled with
No,
comprehending, of like, how is it they believe and I don't? Or
no, I had seen enough at that early age, growing up in an alcoholic household, that I pretty much thought they were wrong, about a lot of things. And I, had already had pretty strong opinions, so I didn't have any problems with believing that I understood something that the adults were getting wrong. So I didn't have a problem with that. So I was a cocky little jerk.
And it wasn't forced upon you by either your parents or anything like that. They didn't,
No.
once you said I'm done with it, that was kind of it. They let you be done with it.
Yeah, my mother, until the day she died, she'd ask me once a year if I was still an atheist, and it really bothered her. But she respected my opinion, and
Hmm.
she was very concerned about that, and I feel bad because it threatened her in a way, and I wanted her to believe whatever she wanted to believe, particularly before she died. And like 6 hours before she died, I was sitting by her side, all alone with her, and I told her, Mom, I believe in God now, and I lied to her totally, and I just did that as a favor to my mother because it was important to her, the whole thing, and she didn't push it, she didn't insist on it. She was always very concerned that I disagreed with her though, so
Hmm.
and I feel kind of bad about that in a way, but because she was a
And
simple Irish lady.
yeah, it's kind of beautiful. It makes me think of the Invention of Lying movie. I don't know,
Hmm.
where Ricky lies to his mom about the afterlife because he wants her to be happy.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, there's that's the emotional nature of us wanting, that our loved ones are at rest, at peace, and
right. Yeah.
I totally get that. So, did you have any sort of superstitious or paranormal beliefs at all? Uh,
There were a
Even a
lot of
little, like ghosts or goblins or ESP or anything like that, or
there were a lot of ghost stories, but ESP, I just never believed in that, and most things about the mind. There were a lot of ghost stories when I was coming up, and I had curiosity about those things. But then, in fact, I even looked into them when I was an adult. I would go and talk to the people that had claimed to see ghosts. I was really kind of disconcerted because none of them remembered, their experience that they told me about when I was a child, right? Like my
mm,
brothers and sisters and a bunch of other local farm boys and girls apparently saw a Abe Lincoln like man walk into the hayloft in the middle of a party and then disappear. And they told me this story, and it was a famous story to me, when I was a kid growing up, because I was like 7 6 7 years old when they told me about it. And then when I questioned them as adults, they had no memory of this. And I'm like,
mm,
okay, if you had seen a ghost, you would have remembered it, I think.
mm.
And so I have no idea where the stories came from. So, and there were a few others, and I just never. I think by the time I was a very young teenager, I had pretty much just completely rejected all of that as being inconsistent with reality. Like, okay, ghosts can walk on the floor and yet they can go through walls. I call bullshit.
Right, yeah, because they'd fall through to the center of
Right,
the earth, or they'd be, if they weren't controlled by gravity, they'd be flung off. I mean,
floating.
there's
Right,
and why wouldn't they? If you die in a plane, like, are you stuck in the plane? Are you in the air? Like, none of it, right?
right.
The moment you start to ask the questions, it all, what about like conspiracy sort of things where, like, I don't know, like JFK is a big one, that some people have questions about even to this day. And it's like, well, sure, but the easiest story, the simplest story is one guy did it. It could be more, maybe, but it seems like you have to, believe other stuff. But did any of that attract you at all, or was interesting to you?
Most of that repelled me. I actually remember the day Kennedy got assassinated. I was in seventh grade civics class. And I remember the teacher coming in and telling us that the president had been wounded in Dallas. And then he left the room and came back 20 minutes later and told us that the president was dead.
Wow.
And we were very involved in JFK politics, even like he got elected when I was 9 years old, and we were super involved in that election.
He was
I guess
very, very loved. He was
he
very
was,
beloved.
yeah, he really was. And he was just a beacon of hope for all of us, and it had an impact. But the I was kind of an Occam's razor kind of kid, where yeah, come on, this is the simplest explanation. If you don't got proof, uh, get back to me when you do. It just didn't. So I never got involved in any real
How
conspiracy theories or any of it.
with that, if you can recall it all, like how fast did it happen where the murder took place, and between that and the legend or conspiracy start, was it immediate or like the day
No,
after? Like
it was a long time.
it was a long time before conspiracy started about it,
Yeah,
or
I don't think I
yeah.
heard conspiracies about it until I was like at least 18 years old. So I mean, it's just that we were so impacted. Like there were
Mm,
three days there when it rained in northern Minnesota, and it just seemed like the whole world was there was a gloom over us, and we didn't. They that was Friday, I think, and they kicked us out of school. I think it was Friday, and then we didn't have to go back to school until like Tuesday. And I remember the gloom, and we just all sat there glued to the TV, watching this thing unfold. And then the Oswald thing happened, where they shot him. And
yeah,
but I don't remember
yeah.
any conspiracies starting up early on at all. It was just not something. It wasn't. I guess that kind of thing really wasn't going on that much in the early '60s. We were
Mm,
more interested in the British rock scene and things like that. Important
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Because I was thinking about the tragedy that I witnessed is 9/11, and
Yeah.
um, that it was like I think
A week.
uh, maybe a week, maybe less, or I can't really recall. I want to say a
Right.
year, but that seems like too long. That loose change quote documentary, not enough quotes in the universe, came out and things like this, and it was like so quick to have this conspiratorial take on the whole tragedy. It seemed really fast turnaround. I don't know if it was a week or a year. I don't really remember per se, but it was really rapid. Is that, do you think that that's like a due to the information age that we have, or do you think that it's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
else going on, or
We're leakier. So like when I was a kid, the Fringe, okay, they had no means to get out there. Nobody listened to them. The best they could do is go to the local bar and get drunk and spout. They didn't really have a network or a channel, so we didn't hear a lot of that stuff. It just it kind of went dead by the time we had three television stations, right? So I mean,
yeah,
that was it.
ABC's,
And the radio stations, we just listened to music. There wasn't even any talk radio that I can remember. They were all occupied, by music stations, and so there just wasn't the channel. And yet, I think there was something. I think there's something wrong with us today, and I don't know what the hell it is, but it just seems like there's a lot more crazy out there, and a willingness to just buy things just because it kind of sort of makes sense. The story makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's all the chemicals they're putting in the chemtrails and
Is that what
screwing
it
our
is?
brain. Yeah,
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 the
exactly.
fluorine in the water. That's
Yeah, well,
what's
that's what I
screwing
thought.
it.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
the chemtrails, right?
The chemtrails with the fluorine in the water and the vaccines and whatever else they're doing to us.
You
Who knows?
just hit all the irony buttons there,
Yeah.
just all at once. You just,
Yeah. Yeah. I said no. The vaccines protect you from the chemtrails. That's what it is.
exactly.
The tinfoil hat actually helps them to read your brain. So yeah,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, I mean, what about like superstition? Some people have that. Don't. I remember step on a crack, break your mom's back,
Oh, that.
or
Hell yeah.
uh, all that sort of thing. Did any
Yeah.
of that affect you at all, or?
I was OCD as hell, and
Oh God.
yeah, and I would like walk with certain equations that I would work out in my head, so that I had a step in a certain pattern.
Mm,
Otherwise, I was afraid I was going to die. And
yeah.
so, yeah, so
Did
it
did did you have those stores that had the checkerboard floor and you have to like step on the the light or the dark squares?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I did that when I was young.
Things like that.
I have OCD as well, so it's like,
Oh
yeah,
my goodness. And
yeah,
and it pretty much cured itself, I think, throughout my life. But it's dampened, but every now and then it
yeah,
recovers a little bit.
yeah. Same thing for me. It's like that I found ways to overcome it and get it down to like where it's barely noticeable, but it's still where phrases or things would get caught or whatever, and or numbers and things like that. Just weird things like the shadow cast when you open the fridge door. Like I have to step over that, or something bad will happen, and
Right.
it's
Yeah.
nonsense magical thinking. And when you're an adult, you go, nothing's gonna happen, but this anxiety just
You
like
still feel it.
you feel like it, right, right.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's
I think
mostly a
those
feeling.
those superstitions play into that, where they go, oh, you hear the little rhyme of step on the crack, and then you're like, oh, that seems like it could happen, and then that's it, you're gone. And I think that's kind of what religion taps into, maybe that aspect of our brain that likes the patterns, because I think
Yeah.
that's with OCD, we are the part of our brain that really likes certain patterns is hyper engaged or something like that, and it's like, you have to do this or else, and it's like, no, not or else. It's just you want to do it because it gives you that feeling that you like, brain. Stop it. Find another way to generate that feeling.
Yeah. I think if our brains were busier with meaningful things, like, there's a bear chasing us in the woods or whatever, that we wouldn't go to that. It's just that our brains are so well designed to detect patterns.
Yeah,
And
maybe
to,
we could get the bear to be OCD. Hey, look over there. There's a
yeah,
crack.
look at that.
And the bear's like, oh, no, your mom's back.
Yeah, I've actually been
The bear
stalked.
breaks a mirror.
I've actually been stalked by a bear.
Did what about the whole Bloody Mary and stuff like that, where
Oh yeah, yeah,
all that
yeah.
sort of silly things,
Yeah, we
floor
didn't
13.
didn't get into too much of that, but yeah, 13, the number, and like
Ooh.
numerology. Like I was really into numerology, so I'd like. To me, numbers have always been very important. Like I'm 26,117 days old, and it just playing with the numbers and stuff, but never to the point where I actually believed in that stuff. It was just playing around in my head, that sort of thing. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I got a thing now with my microwave. It's like if I can get everything ready before my microwave beeps, I'm going to win the lottery.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
And I haven't won the
exactly.
fucking lottery yet, so
No, yeah, no. Well, it's hard to win if you don't play.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
see, that's what my thought is. Is like, well, I'll win somehow without playing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That will be even more impressive.
Oh yeah. If you're walking along and you look down and there's a ticket
Yeah.
there, and you pick
Right.
it.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's about the odds I have, anyways. So.
So anyway, before, let's see, when I was around 13 years old, I started with a friend. He got me into philosophy, like Nietzsche and metaphysics and a whole bunch of stuff. And at the same time, he was the social scientist guy, and I was the physical sciences guy, right? So
Mm,
we formed a really, really close friendship to where him and I could have entire conversations with 3 words, and we had, and we talked continually, we were just like soulmates, right? And uh, we grew up, and anyway, he got me into Ellen Watts, which who is in my opinion, a secular Buddhist. I had never seen Watts suggest that woo was a thing, and that was Buddhism. And so we got into that by the time we were about 15 years old. Well, 15. I was reading Ellen Watts on the 24th of December at about 9:30 at night, just before I turned 16. And I had what I call a grand mal spiritual experience. And I was an atheist prior, during, and after. So it was all secular. And I understood that something profound had happened to me psychologically, but it changed the course of my entire life. And the following summer, Mac and I decided to become Christians, or I think it was sometime around in the middle of the winter. We decided to become Christians on purpose because one of the things Ellen Watts taught is that you could don a belief like a loose fitting cloak and then take it off when you didn't need it anymore. So we became Christians for about 3 months, and we really got into Catholicism, and we had this wonderful summer where, like hot summer nights and country roads, and we saw God in the clouds, and of course, we didn't believe any of it. Now, the odd thing is that we practiced, but we didn't believe at that deep level where you would defend it, right?
Right.
And it was a wonderful experience. And then it's around, I think it was around September or something, we said, no, that's done. It's over, right? We took
Yeah.
the cloak off and we set it aside. And we did this on purpose. And it was an
Wow.
interesting because the amount of belief we had was seriously, I mean, it was serious, right? We really put ourselves into it. We immersed ourselves in it. We read biblical texts and Catholic literature, and we really got into it. And it was so, but we didn't believe it at some level, right? There was always this like underlying, okay, I'm gonna toss this aside when I'm done with it, and we did, and it was interesting.
Wow.
But it
That
did
that
shape my life. Go ahead.
that is kind of so polar opposite to when I was a believer. That I was petrified in a way of any experimentation with anything that wasn't Christianity. Is like, oh, it would suck you in, and you would never
Oh
come
yeah,
back,
yeah,
and now it's like I just don't believe any of it, and I go, well, I'm what I wonder if I have the mindset to attempt something like what you're describing. I don't know that I could, because it just it's like so boring.
yeah.
Like,
It's boring. It's a
yeah.
boring
Um.
philosophy. But so you were heavily indoctrinated or influenced.
Oh, I was Christian from 8 to 32.
Yeah.
So yeah, I believed in all that stuff.
Yeah, the fear
um.
that goes with casting those beliefs aside, kind of similar to the OCD thing, kind of plays
Yeah.
into that
Oh
same
man,
fear center.
it's hard to describe, because it's like, well, you don't have do you have any belief in any possible afterlife or anything of that nature, or
Oh my
do
God,
you
no.
do you know what happens? Do you think we're just that's that's it, we're done, and there's nothing, or
Just
what
like
do you think
going to
about that?
sleep, just like going to sleep, except forever.
Hmm.
Just not going to wake up. And it's really interesting. I'm 71 years old, so I'm pretty close to that blinking out of life, right?
Hmm.
And along with that, I found out I had cancer a few months ago.
Oh
So,
no.
well, they cut it out. So I caught it stage one. So
Hmm.
I'm going to the Mayo Clinic this week, and hope to find out if they have to do another freeze job on my kidney.
Hmm.
But anyway, so this whole thing about blinking out is, it all fits into Buddhism and the Buddhist principles, basically, that you're not really a self to begin with. That's pretty much an illusion. It's an
Hmm.
illusion based on memories and, this bag of skin. And you learn to kind of set aside that selfishness and that need for me to go on forever. I mean, what the hell do I want to go on forever for? So I can keep getting up and having fun days like I'm having. But the thing is that if I went on for another 40 years, 95% of those days I would waste anyway, like I do now. Like if I really care about getting up and living, then I should get up right this morning and live right now, and not be so concerned with how many more days I have coming. So you go
Yeah.
through this process where you can kind of lay down your life, right? And
Yeah.
and go ahead.
I've looked into the what happens in your brain as you go. Like, your brain knows that you're dying, and releases all these chemicals,
Yeah,
uh, and the thought of, like, well, does that happen? Wondering if it happens every time. Like, what if somebody gets shot? Like, did they get to have that? Like, does it always happen? Like, no matter, like, even if their head gets smashed. Like, do they get that like within
Yeah,
those milliseconds, or like I don't know. I don't
yeah,
know how it
yeah,
works.
yeah. Me and my friend Mac had a big argument at a bar when we were 18 years old about, because I believed that you would feel something if you shot yourself in the head, and he, of course, knew he was right, I was wrong, but I guess couldn't get over the idea that you would feel something.
I don't know. Yeah, would you? I don't know. Would you
Now,
hear it? Would you?
now, if your
Would
brain, okay, if your heart
I don't
shuts
know.
off, if
There's
your
no,
heart
there's
shuts
no,
off,
the brain wouldn't feel anything,
no,
but
you
yeah, I
wouldn't
don't know.
either.
Don't
So,
do it. We're now gonna have to put like a suicide warning on the thing.
oh goddamn, yeah,
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 but no, I
I'm
mean, it's
sorry.
just that I don't know why, and this kind of like, what is that like to have all these chemicals be dumped all at
Yeah,
once? Like in that moment, do you experience like timelessness in that moment, like from your inner perspective, since you're like to you it's as if it's eternity or something like that,
yeah. Well,
even though for the rest of the world's already moved on and you're long gone, but you're in this bliss because of chemicals, as far as you can tell, forever, even though it's not forever. It's just like,
yeah.
maybe that's a thing. Yeah, okay. That
The,
makes me feel a little bit better.
the thing is, when when you die, like 2 minutes after, you're no longer conscious, right? It's like you're sleeping. You've been sleeping for 2 minutes. Well, when you're sleeping for 2 minutes, it's the same as being asleep for 4 hours in a deep sleep, right? So,
Hmm.
like when you're dead for 2 minutes, it's the very same as being dead for 500 trillion years.
Hmm.
So you are in effect launched into eternity.
Hmm.
It's just that you're not going to be sitting there recording things, having fun, drinking coffee, uh, you,
Yeah.
watching the boys on Prime. You're not going to do
Yeah, the
that,
boys, I
right?
love it. Yeah.
So, but the thing is that once you realize that at the moment you die, 300 years hence is not going to be any different to you, and 300 years hence, everybody you know is going to be dead. So, what the hell do you care to stick around for? It's really kind of an interesting release that you get, and it's kind of behind a sort of spiritual experience where you suddenly look at it in an entirely different way, and you no longer give a shit.
Hmm.
You're just like, and then all of a sudden you're free. You're
Hmm.
free of this anxiety and this worry, and you say, "Oh well, it'll happen. I really don't care."
Hmm.
So, like, I'm going to be
Yeah.
laughing my ass off as I die. I'm certain. I might be
Well,
screaming, like Grandpa's Passengers.
yeah. I mean, it's such a uh, an odd thing, because I think with Christianity is that a lot of it is focused on the next life and looking forward to that. People say death cult sometimes. It's like, yeah, in a way,
Yeah,
it can be. It depends on the church, but yeah, it can be that where all the focus is on then and not now, and it's like, well, but what, now as a skeptic, I go, what could I possibly do here and now that I couldn't do there? So none of this would matter.
right,
So it flips everything backwards. It's like, no, that would make mortality pointless, because you have infinity to experience everything. Like,
right.
oh, you have to experience this stuff. Why? Because it's not there. Why isn't it there? That doesn't make
Yeah,
any, because it isn't. Oh, that doesn't make sense. Why did I need to experience it? Well, because, right, and they go into all that. But when I deconverted, I had these nightmares about death, where before, if I dreamed of death, it would be like a van hits me, but I'm still the spirit going through the van. The van's going through me because I'm a spirit and I'm still there, and I'd wake up screaming. But then now it was like I would have these nightmares where I'd be falling and hit the ground, and then it would just be blackness, and that would wake me up screaming, because my brain was trying to readjust to this, like, well, now what do we think about dying now, like,
yeah.
so it was difficult, and
Well,
you
I
know
think
it, yeah.
Christianity trivializes meaning in your life now,
Yeah.
and takes it all and scoops it up and tries to like make it like, okay, next week I'm going to camp and I got to wait till I go to camp. And it's like, that is just a bullshit way to live. And
Yeah,
like,
experience this moment and
I had a
enjoy
conversation,
this moment. What
conversation
is?
this morning
Oh,
with a
sorry. Go ahead.
Christian. I had a conversation this morning with a Christian, and he was at, how do you have meaning in your life? How do you find morality and all that stuff? And it's like, you don't find it. It's there. You just let it shine. You just let it happen. You don't go seeking it or trying to construct it. You are a creature of meaning and morality. Just live like that, and stop thinking about it. For Christ's sake. Anyway, go
how
ahead.
do we how do we make, because you have all the answers, how do we make
I do.
sense of the universe being what, reality being what it is? Like, well, could it have been a different way? We do that sort of question and all that, and goodness knows, if things could be different, they'd be different. It's like, well, we're not in that other reality, and if there is a different reality, we'd be asking the same question, so is it more amazing the way things really are, that it's just like, how did it all, why, how,
Yeah.
that sort of thing is just like, if people have accused, the faith type, well, so you've got a miracle without a miracle maker, and I'm like, if you want to call it that, I
Yeah.
guess, but so what? It's amazing either way. It's amazing that it came together and did its stuff just because. And if you add on to that, then you just have more questions, because you go, well, how does the being that made it work? Where does its power and energy come from? How does its mind work? And so you didn't answer anything really. You set back all the questions to a different step. So, but what
That's
do you make of all that? How do
Okay,
you
that's one
process
place
that?
that really kind of gives me a creepy sort of uh, fear feeling, like this idea that why is there something at all?
Right.
Like there, like I imagine physics. Okay, the ultimate physics, that there is some geometry that we have no understanding of, and we're living at this tiny little crossroads, right, where all of these geometrical patterns just happen to create this universe, right? Where this universe is sort of an anomaly in the middle of a vast matrix of weirdness, right? That's geometrically we can't even get our minds around it. Okay, so that's the case, but why is there that thing at all? Why is there something at all? And then, but the way you have to deal with that is you have to realize what we are. And that's where I come up with answers in atheism. That when you understand that you are just a little tiny bit of matter on a little speck of dust in the middle of this astronomical universe that is in the middle of something far greater than that, infinite, right? And when you realize that, how in the hell are you going to get your mind around it? Stop worrying, be happy. Just, just be happy that you got to be at all, because
Yeah.
damn,
Yeah,
there's so
but
many.
it is a sense of secular skeptical awe that I have when thinking about these things. It's like atoms, molecules, subatomic particles got together because they could. There was forces working on them called gravity that
Yeah,
pulled stuff together, became a star, exploded, making new stuff. That stuff came together, exploded again, making more stuff. Then that stuff all came together, and eventually, somehow, all of that, we get this that
created
we're
this. Right?
experiencing now. And it's like, how did what? It's like, why did any of that do that? It's like, that's what it does.
Yeah,
Okay.
and worse yet, we evolved as creatures that can actually go out and figure some of this stuff out.
Yeah, yeah, and
Like,
it's
that is
just
really amazing.
it's insanely incredible. The like Tyson Neil had said, we're the universe way of knowing itself, and it's like, yeah, we are the universe. That's what we are. We're just these, and then you go, well, what's an atom? And you go, okay, it's just energy. Like, and like the diagram isn't right, that we got used to the 2D diagram. It's like, no, it's just like, it's like a sphere. but it's not even like that, because the probability of the electrons we don't know. It's just kind of like we know how many there are, but we don't know where they are. And I'm like, what?
Right.
Huh? And when I learned that, I'm like, no, everything that I knew was wrong. It's like,
Yeah.
this is as bad as when I learned dinosaurs should have feathers. Like, that's
Yeah, and
not
it's
any.
like, at that level, there isn't even aware where they would be.
Yeah,
None of
yeah.
that shit makes any
And it's
sense.
like, well, but why? What's keeping them together? What's holding them together? And it's like,
Love.
well, yeah, well, that's just is. It's like, yeah. I'm like, well, what? What's making it? Is it gravity? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on there? And they're like, we don't know. And I'm like, no. What's smaller than that? Like, we don't know. And it's like, no, we gotta know. I want to know the answer. I want to, and it's just this incredible amazingness. And it's, I don't need to add more to that to have that be amazing. And um, I
Humility
think,
is like
yeah, it's very humbling. Yeah.
yeah, humility is like right next door to being grateful. And it's really an odd thing when you say, I just don't know. I mean, there's so many things I'm never going to know, don't know. And you go out on a warm night and you look at a firefly, and the firefly turns on and then turns off. That's the whole fucking universe right there. And
Yeah.
and that may be it. And it's like, wow, I got to be a part of that.
Mm.
And it's just like, so this humility is like right next door to gratitude, and it's really a different way to live. I mean, it kind of pisses me off that I'm not going to be around to see what happens next.
Mm.
Biology.
Well, donate your brain to science. You have a way to, maybe you'll come back as a cyborg. That's my
Yeah,
plan.
well, I want to be buried under a weeping willow tree so that I can be the tree, because I always wanted to be a tree.
Oh, yeah. Why
That's,
not? Yeah,
that's
maybe.
my aspiration. But
Yeah.
yeah, so what I'm doing now is I study every day, and it's become my passion. Just learning as much as I can, as fast as I can, and I'm going to run full speed off the dock of life. I hope. Hopefully, I will not get dementia or slow down, and I'll just keep doing this at a high rate. But I'm just out there, just like, wow, look at that, look at that, look at that, and it's like I want to be doing that when I die. It's
What's something that you've learned that's very easy to understand, and then what's something that you've learned that's very hard to understand?
Oh God. Okay, hard to understand is functional programming in Haskell. I don't know if that makes sense, but easy to understand. Hell, I don't know if anything's easy. Um, God, what is easy to understand? I don't think anything's easy to understand. I don't know.
Mm. If you dig at it, because you dig at it, and it becomes like you go, okay, well, 1 plus 1 is 2. That seems rather
Oh yeah,
straightforward.
yeah,
Is
but
it?
book.
Is it as easy as it seems, or is there
No,
is there deeper stuff there? Tell me
I
about
got
the
books
deeper
on.
stuff.
I got books on that. I think by it's a Frege something where he really gets into 1 plus 1. I mean, really deeply, and the book is almost incomprehensible. So, like,
Yeah,
yeah, nothing's easy.
yeah. I'd found out a while way back now that 0 to the power of 0 is 1.
Yeah,
And I've used that because whenever the sometimes CS will be like, oh, nothing, from nothing comes nothing. I'm like, oh yeah, did you know that 0 to the power of 0 is 1? Yeah, checkmate. Nah, nah, nah. And they're like, well, that's not really nothing. I'm like, well, what else is it? It's 0. Well, I was like, how does that work? I don't know. Like the guy walked through it on YouTube, and I watched it, listened to it, and I'm like, uh huh, yep. I was like, okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
I get,
music. Yeah, music. Some Peter W said music is both easy and hard to understand. I think. Yeah, let me go on that a bit, because that's related to mathematics in a way that there's hypothetically an infinite amount of music we could produce, but not really when you take in the human factor, because there's only so much music that we would enjoy listening to, and that narrows the selection down a whole lot. It's still a big number, but it's no longer infinite, because certain arrangement of sounds we just wouldn't like.
yeah.
Um, do you have any thoughts about music?
Well, I found a book on music a while back, and I cannot find this book again. But it got into the mathematics of harmonics, and it was like it started out with the frequencies, and it started really getting into like all of these wild things you can do with writing music, right? With creating music and stuff, and uh, I don't know, music pretty much beats my heart. Like I love like house and techno and crazy stuff like that. And I'm kind of getting tired of the '60s, but I do like '90s alternative, and I love music. It just sort of like I don't know, it just like drives you, you know. And I play it for my cats, and my cats are just like, "What the shut that shit off," you know. They're like,
Yeah, they don't have the same sort of.
"Yeah, there's
Well,
some."
they have different hearing than we do, so maybe they're hearing things we don't hear.
But I mean, is it because we came up swinging through trees that we got this rhythm going, or I don't know, but like rhythm is really important to us, and yeah, that is just a wonderfully deep field, and it just like smells, it can set off just all sorts of memories and feelings in your life and stuff. Yeah, it's wonderful. My
Do we have free will?
not in the sense that people are trying to reach for. It's it's deterministic, but it's like uh, it's just a complete misunderstanding of what we are. And there again, I'm
Hmm.
going to appeal to answers in atheism. If you really understand what the mind is, it's like, okay, you are a thing that's making decisions, right? But it's all based on basically, it's preordained by what happened before, some of which was you making decisions. And it's just like, why do you want free will? It's like if I had free will, that means that right now I could just decide to just anything. I mean, what the hell do I want? Like, I mean, why would you
Yeah, the
want?
ability to do arbitrary actions is my definition of free
Yeah,
will. It's like,
it,
and then I
it,
go, okay, well, then I proceed to do what I perceived as an arbitrary. Like I put, go, blah, 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 blah. Okay, there, I did it. Ah, see, but then no, because I had to think about.
yeah. So, like, if you're standing on the edge of the cliff, the last goddamn thing you want is free will. You know,
Yeah,
it's
well, I said the thought experiment I had is that you really want to prove that people have free will. It's like, okay, well, here's a plate of poo and here's a plate of salad. Eat the poo. That will prove you have free will. Well, nobody's gonna like. Who's
nobody.
gonna do? Somebody maybe, but
Yeah.
if that's somebody's kink, I'm not kink shaming. I'm just.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing that you have to understand about free will. It's like you are a part of the universe moving, okay? And yeah, within that part of the universe moving, if you want to, like a part of the universe unfolding, as you unfold, you're making decisions, but that is what you do. That's your nature. That's that part of the universe doing what it does, and you just do that throughout your entire life. And it forms this path. And when you look back, it couldn't have been any other way. There's no way that I was going to jump off that cliff.
What is your epistemology?
Epistemology is based on neuroscience quite a bit. So we pop out of the womb and we start doing science experiments. And my first science experiment was poking myself in the eye. And I figured out how to use my hands, use my limbs. You start figuring out space and time and all of that. And but it's a local thing. You do it locally around you. And throughout my life, that's why I'm a naturalist, because the only thing I found is natural things, right, that are perfectly explainable around me. And what I know is what's in front of me. And that's how we know things, right? And we can come up with concepts so that we can know things. Like I know there are people in the houses down the street, right? But
Yeah.
somebody could have, some spook could have in the middle of the night taken them all out and shipped them off somewhere. So do I know that for certain. Well, the idea of
Is the water wet when you're not touching the water? What?
what's
Oh,
that now?
is the water wet when you're not touching the water?
Right.
That sort of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's that is, something I've constructed in my mind. If I'm not touching the water, then there is no wet. And that's not a problem, because I know that if I do put my hand in the water, it's going to feel wet, right? Unless it's alcohol or something, or ether,
Right.
whatever. But I mean, there are things that we just know easily around us. Like I know right now that I'm sitting here, I've got a mouse in front of me. I've got well, I actually happen to have a 9mm Glock in front of me, but I've got a microphone and a cup, and my red kitty Qualia cup. And, these things I know for certain, the things that are locally around me. And they all behave in time and space the way I have become accustomed to over my 71 years from the moment I popped out of the womb. And then when you figure out how the brain learns all that stuff, there's a wonderful person called Marvin Minsky that really got into the details of how we acquire knowledge of space, objects, time, and things like that. And he describes things like how we learn to build a bridge with blocks. That takes a child a long time to figure out. But so epistemology is a biological phenomenon. We're biologically patterning things, and that is where it's at. And the deeper questions that the epistemologists get into, I don't have a lot of patience for them.
Yeah. Do you? I get frustrated sometimes with those that like are really deep into philosophy, where I'm like, like when you start going, oh, is reality real? I'm like, no, look, stop, please. No, reality's real. That's good. Let's just keep going. We don't need to, we can run that once. We don't need to run it more than once. Like if reality, as far as I'm concerned, is real enough, and if there's something else, then we'll discover that. If not, it's just an empty. It's a point. It's like, okay, I did the exercise. I'm moving on. People every now and then will, because I'm a skeptic, and they'll be like, "Oh, are you skeptical about skepticism?" Well, yes, and that always it's like, why can you do that? It's like you run it
Yeah.
once, you run that experiment once. You're like, should I be skeptical of things? Yes or no? Let's see. Wow, do people lie? Yeah. Are people wrong? Yes. Okay, I should be skeptical of things. Okay, that was me being skeptical about skepticism. It worked out. I'm back. I did the experiment.
Yeah, the thing I hate about some philosophers, they will construct something that sounds logically great, like the liar's paradox.
Oh yeah. All the paradoxes are fun.
Yeah,
They're fun. I love those, but
yeah, they're fun, but there's no.
there isn't an answer, because that's the point. It's
Yeah, so there's something wrong with the construction, not with the world, not with the universe. Universe fine, logic's fine. It's a fact that you came up with some sort of syllogistic reasoning that backed you into a corner.
right.
It's like just let it go and look at it from a further outer perspective, that sort of thing.
I deal with informal logic mostly. That's my thing. I call myself an amateur logistician, only because I haven't been paid yet to be a logistician. So somebody can pay me, and then I'll be a professional. But within that, there was this argument, and I forget who made it, but it said that logic, it can't tell you anything that you don't already know. And I think that that's true, because when I identify a fallacy, it is outside of logic that I must go to find the fallacy, to find the truth in the first place. So I did the example of, lobsters exist. If lobsters don't exist, my light's not on, but my light is on. So I guess lobsters don't exist. And it's like, well, that completely is broken as far as arguments go. In many, many ways, formal and informal fallacies galore. But then I look and go, hey, my light's on. Okay, that's, I didn't need any of that to get there. And I am pretty sure, and I haven't been let down yet, but I'm fairly sure that if you have a valid and sound argument, it is correct. But I hesitate on that because you could see an argument that seems valid and sound and be wrong about it being valid and sound. So I say, once you have that, then you should look into the conclusion. It's not that you should just automatically believe it, because for me, the epistemology is greater than that. It's more than just informal logic. You need repeated tests, you need empirical evidence, you need some other stuff to ensure that you know what's going on, and all of that's anchored in reality. And so when I hear and I see apologists galore, proof of God, evidence of God. No, you don't have proof, you don't have evidence, you have bad arguments.
Yeah.
That's all you've got. That's all you've ever had is arguments. And arguments aren't proof, they're not evidence.
Well, logic will get you, logic is mathematics, and it will get you to validity. So you can be sure of validity, but you cannot be sure of soundness, because you're dealing with, okay, is premises 1 and 2 true?
Right. Yeah, you have to be able to identify those, and within logic, there's no way to do that. You have to go outside of logic to do that. So unless you're dealing with the pure formulas, then you're fine. You know, if it's X and Y and all that, then it doesn't matter. You can do it inside of itself all day. But the moment that it is referencing something that's real, then it's a whole nother ball game.
That's why I call Danny a weenie. Because there's basically two kinds of logic. There's a mathematical logic where you deal with symbols A, B, and C, and we have axioms, and we define that very, very carefully, and it works, and it's consistent within itself. But then when you start getting into rhetorical logic, where you start winding, you come up with a bunch of sentences, right? Well, then you're dealing with an entirely different kind of you're no longer in mathematics. You're in the world, right?
Right. That's why formalized logic deals with the formats and those formulas, and then there's also formal logic as the rules of logic, and then there's informal logic, which it's like but I love that stuff, because that's what ultimately deconverted me, was learning informal logic, because I had grasped onto the apologetic arguments as the saving grace for my faith, that would maintain me, that would keep me, because I hadn't found any evidence for any of this stuff. I couldn't find archaeological evidence for like anything hardly in the Bible. And it's amazing how the apologists will say, well, all historians agree that Jesus existed. And I'm like, really? Which ones are those?
Yeah.
And they never have a list. Like, every now and rare blue moons, you'll get a list of names, and they'll all be Christian and Catholic names. So I'm like, well, I'm not surprised by them agreeing that Jesus existed, because if you did the same thing for, whatever other religion, of course they're going to agree. I mean, this is silliness. And I don't know, it's like, if there was a Jesus, he wouldn't have been anything like what that story says, because it's just not
right.
None of that's a thing that can be a thing.
There are legends in my own life, that I remember, and when I go back and I have to go back and fact check it. I have friends that have reached legendary status in my mind, and then when I go back and I actually try to remember particular instances, I'm like, okay, well, maybe it wasn't such a legend.
It's like, a legend. The legend's not a legend until it ends. The man becomes the myth because we construct a story, and that story then gets enhanced over time. And
you can manufacture memories so easily. It's just unbelievable. Like I saw Jesus above my bed, and that was a wonderful experience. And what had happened is, once again, here it was about 12 years ago or so. I immersed myself in Christianity because I wanted to fake being a Christian. So that because I had questions about why they didn't believe in evolution, right? So I was
Yeah.
so I got into this, and you had to be a believer in order to belong to this forum. So I pretended to be a believer for about 3 months, and I kept posting and posting, and I kept getting further and further into it. Well, then I went to sleep one night, and as I was falling asleep, I was startled awake by like a brain crash, and I had this weird feeling, and I'd just been posting on that forum, and I thought, oh my god, this is dangerous to pretend you believe something, right, for a long period of time. And I freaked out, and I got up and I deleted my forum membership because I
Mm.
wasn't going to do that anymore. And then later on, I started thinking about the experience, and I remember almost as an outside observer manufacturing the whole Jesus image, and it looked just like that image of Jesus I was hanging above that Presbyterian minister when I was a little kid, right? He had
Hmm.
the same exact picture, and like so, the more I thought about that memory, the more I filled in those details, and I realized, wow, this is it. You get a brain crash and a weird feeling, and you wake up, and then like I don't believe you really dream, but that's probably another deeper subject. But when you wake up, you start manufacturing that dream as you're waking up very quickly, and you put it in order, and then all of a sudden you've got a story. But you did that while you were coming conscious, and you were
Hmm.
manufacturing your dream. And then by the time you're pouring your first cup of coffee, if it was a powerful enough dream and you rehearsed it enough in your head, you will have a whole story in mind. And and I've watched myself do that over and over again because I have a really good habit of in a moment being in this, being able to step outside of myself and observe myself thinking, sort of, so and it's sort of a skill I've developed ever since my psychedelic days to basically watch my subjective experience happening. And I have found myself manufacturing parts of my dream, filling in the details. And I know I do it, and I know I did it with the Jesus thing. So I tell people facetiously, "Oh, I saw Jesus above my bed." No, I fucking didn't. Yeah, I had a brain crash,
Yeah.
woke up, I
Yeah.
had the experience, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've said, because people sometimes will say, "Oh, you can choose what you believe," and I'm like, no, not instantly. Maybe over time you could. Like,
Yeah,
if you really tried hard enough for long enough,
if you
you
chip
might
that.
you might be able to. Like, I said, my example is like, can you believe I'm a lobster right now? No, probably not. Not honestly. Like, if you were being honest, like, I'm a lobster. Can you believe that?
Yeah,
No, it's like, no. But if you worked at it for, like, I don't know, a few years, maybe you could convince yourself I'm a lobster. But the time and energy that you have to put into that is would be insane. But then, of course, the deeper question that I want answered is, once you were in it, could you get out of it again?
right. Yeah, you can get your like I was a really anti-immigrant conservative back about oh god, it's been about 30 years now almost. But listen to Rush Limbaugh every day, right?
Rush
I mean,
Limbaugh.
every time I got in the car, I listened to that son of a bitch, and he made great sense, And then I think it was the year 2000. I was on 102nd Street and Nicollet Avenue in Minneapolis, and I was driving and I was listening to Rush Limbaugh, and I heard him say something. I heard him defend something about the Republican Party that totally was the opposite of what he had led me to believe were his principles. And I realized, you son of a bitch, you're a sellout. And then I shut him off and I never listened to him again. And over the next 20 years, I tore down those ideas one at a time by analyzing them, right? And so now
Hmm.
I'm like a real lefty, and I'm
Yeah, yeah. I think that in a way, the whole left right dichotomy thing is something I kind of want to dispel and get rid of, and just not have these parties, because it just
I
pits
know
us into team worship. That
exactly.
and there's too much nuance. But then I go, well, the whole system's screwed, and we just need to, fix everything and start over. And if I ran everything, then of course, I know how to make it work, right? Because I'm awesome, and I would run it the right way, and I totally wouldn't be corrupted by the power and money. And
well, yeah, you got to. That's why you got to visit Answers in Atheism for all the answers.
Right, exactly.
That's all you have to do is donate to my.
Donate to Speed of Sound.
Yeah.
What is? End with this. Well, no, two more things. What is atheism?
What is atheism?
Mm.
Oh God, that's a broad spectrum. It's a label, okay, that you can use on yourself to mean various things, and oftentimes it'll mean agnosticism, where it's something I just don't believe in. Like I would argue that rocks really are atheists because they don't believe in anything.
Me and Noel gonna have to come after you for that. Noel Powell, Plum or Noel Plum, yeah.
Oh yeah, and Steve McRae. So it's like lighten up about the definitions. But for me, atheism, I'm a hard atheist in that I believe that there is not only no reason to believe that God exists, but there are a hell of a lot of reasons why you should reject that kind of anthropomorphic projection onto the universe, right? So I'm a hard atheist, but atheism is going to mean something different to everybody. Like, let's quit fighting about it, guys. It's like,
but it's more fun to fight.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay.
Let's stop fighting and just all get along.
So did you? Okay. We'll talk about Gur streams last night backstage.
Yeah. All that. I don't know about Gur. Well, anyways, I love Gur.
Gur causes cancer and communism.
Hey, look.
Horrible.
Okay.
Okay.
I gotta recover from that. Oh man. Okay, so that was the series. What was atheism? Was the series? What's something that you would want to tell people in the future? 100 years from now, 500 years from now. What words of wisdom might you have for humanity?
Oh shit.
No, not to put you on the spot, but
No, worthy.
Simple questions only.
Basically, live your life as a simple organism and just embrace your heart, your spirit, and stay out of your goddamn mind unless you need to go there. Unless you have a reason to go there, just live like a simple organism, and start with that. And then everything else becomes frosting, basically. I don't know. Yeah, that's all I got for the world.
Well, thank you.
One other thing I'd like to tell future generations.
Oh, yeah.
You're all fucked.
Yeah. Well, they knew that. But, okay. Thank you so much for doing this. Enjoyed talking to you, and we're going to talk a little bit when I hit the button. Was just making sure. Yeah, okay. All right, got it. Uh-oh. What was it? What did I push there? Thanks for doing that, and keep on keeping on, and may science prevail in getting rid of all your illness and all that. And I'll leave the final word to you. Say whatever you want to say, promote whatever you want to promote. Yeah.
I had a conversation with Paleo Logos today, and I'm going to be premiering that hopefully sometime this afternoon or this evening. And it was an interesting conversation. We got into abortion. I didn't really want to, but we got into it, and I don't know, might be interesting to listen to. And that's about it. Other than that, subscribe to my channel, send me money, whatever you want,
Okay, well, thank you so much. All right, well, we made it through it, and neither of us had a mental oh no! Yeah, nothing went wrong. Everything was in this, and then I never end normally. Sometimes I always end where I do weird things at the end. and then I go, oh, I'll hit the button because people sometimes enjoy that I like do weird things at the end. I don't know. Nobody's told me not to do it, so I keep doing it, and I don't know because nobody posts a comment. Okay, I'm hitting the button. Shut up, hit the button. Hit the button, dude. Hit the. Okay, I'm hitting the button. All right, thanks. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Monsters exist. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Are we off air now?
Grassy,
Can we talk about? No, we're not. No,